Igniting the light through highs and lows, we'll stand as one. Our legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together we roar, together we roar. Detroit Lions will rise, with our hearts full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. So let's lift our voices, let's turn it up loud. For the love of the Lions, we'll always be proud.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is Thursday, December 26th. Christmas is over. And I'm joined this morning with Eric Rintamaki, as well as a guest of the show today, Riley O'Brien. Good morning, gentlemen. How are we today?
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Hopefully everybody has good audio today on the back end. Man, we had a fun Christmas day watching some football. But I guess the first question for everybody in the chat is, did you get any football gear? Riley wanted to bring this question aboard today. Did you guys get any football gear? What was your favorite football-related present of the day, if you got one? Did you get a jersey? Did you get a shirt, a hoodie, a hat, anything? What did you guys get for Christmas? Or did you get Honolulu Blue Brew coffee? Did you get coffee? Hopefully you got coffee. What did you guys get, Eric? What'd you get?
Well, I got a trip to San Francisco.
There you go. we knew that. Riley's holding up a Sanders jersey, though. What did Riley get?
This is it's like the Vapor Elite jersey. They're normally pretty expensive, but they're on sale right now. So this is the second Barry Sanders jersey I've got.
Nice.
I got a hat. I got a mug. I got some cool stuff. So all Detroit Lions, as you would expect. And got one for myself and my buddy Jack Rumsey, who is a Lions fan and a listener of the show. He just got a membership the other day, so I got a few things.
Nice. I like that. I like that mug, man. I haven't seen that one yet. That thermal. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
You know what's going to be great in this is the Honolulu Blue Brew.
There you go. So good morning to everybody in the chat. Let's see what everyone's talking about this morning in the chat. What do they get? So we've got an autographed Hutch football, Big M. Wow, that's cool,
nice.
man. That's an expensive gift. Theodoro Villarreal got a sweater and a Sonic and Knuckles tee. That's pretty cool. Let's see. Jeff Buckler says my son Jack got a boys 10-12-46 Jack Campbell jersey. There you go, man. That's a great jersey to keep right there. Jack Campbell's having such a good season. He really is. What else you guys see in the chat? Jody Crithers got a travel mug. Let's see.
Estella, Gibbs, Hutchinson, St. Brown. I'm assuming those are jerseys.
Possibly, yeah.
If you read that one. See, Will and Eric, I feel like you guys have multiple blue, multiple white, multiple black. You guys are
Listen.
You can't gift Eric anything because he has about
No.
50
What-
jerseys.
No,
What
I
would
have
you
over
give you these
150 jerseys.
what?
It's craziness.
Have you ever seen the picture of my closet?
I have not.
Oh, dude, you'll die.
I've seen interviews you've done on like local news stations and things, but I have not. Maybe that's a picture we'll have to see.
Yeah, I might have to just lay them out sometime. And so, well, I did it once where I took like all of my new jerseys just from this year and I put them out on the bed and I took a picture of all the nameplates, right? And 2 of them or 3 of them say Uperlights because I have a white, a black, and a blue one that I have number 86 was my number for football and Uperlights on the back, right? And they're mixed in with Gibbs and St. Brown and everything else. And then all these fake Chinese jersey companies started using my pictures off Facebook to sell their jerseys. So I quit putting pictures of my jerseys up online because people are stealing my pictures and using them for stuff that I'm not, you know,
Not a part of. Yeah, at least you're not getting paid on it, right? So
yeah, I know.
They're like, look at our satisfied customer here.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
We had a good Christmas and everybody's home safe, doing well. I got a big shout out here for one of our listeners and big time supporter. So Better the Hunt, Randy, and I hope he's okay with me doing this, but man, he was in a really bad accident this last week. So my heart really goes out to this guy. I mean, he steps up, you know, to help out Rock Down Cancer Foundation. We've been doing some ads and things for, you know, the C3 Mitts company that he owns. And come to find out last week, he was in a really bad forklift accident on his job site. So really, it sucks being the owner of a company, right? And you get injured because there's just not much, you know, for you. But I hope that he's going to do okay. He's, you know, 3 to 6 months of recovery. But I just wanted to send out a big heartfelt shout out to him because, you know, people that help this channel, we will never forget, right? And they're not just helping this channel, but they're also helping cancer patients and cancer warriors and survivors. And he's been a big part of that. So I just want to make sure I thank him and also tell him I hope that he feels better real soon. So big shout out to Randy. If you guys see him in the chat, man, or whatever, make sure you guys give him your viral hug or whatever, your internet hug, if you will. Hope he gets better soon.
Sending love, Randy.
Heck yeah. Will and I got to go to a game with him. It was pretty awesome. Him and his daughter.
Yeah, his first game ever. His first game at Ford Field, and it was really a cool moment, you know, to be with him and watch, you know, how they went through the day and how everything was so new to them. Like, I don't have that feeling anymore, right? I don't remember what it was 22 years ago walking into Ford Field for the first time. Mm-hmm. But to see it, you know, for him and his daughter, it was a really cool moment to take in. Glad I was a part of it. Glad I got to meet him, you know, in person. Just a good dude.
Recent, wasn't it?
It was this year, yeah. And he's also a veteran too. So, yeah, just all around good dude. So Dan Campbell got a Christmas shirt. He got a pretty funny Christmas shirt, and I'm going to show you guys that here in just a minute. So Dan Campbell, of course, bringing in the holiday spirit. Here we go. Let me show you this. This thing was hilarious. I have big, beautiful balls, says Dan Campbell. I wish that they would have put this thing out for sale because I would have definitely worn it on Christmas.
Eric would have 150 of them already.
Yeah,
it's absolutely hilarious. Yeah, we probably would have given some away. So,
well, you've seen all the memes with him hauling his balls around in the in the wheelbarrow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hilarious, man. Whoever, I'm sure his wife thought this one up. I don't know the backstory, but I'm just gonna say that his wife probably thought this one up. Possibly. Yeah. Absolutely hilarious. I'm glad that they can have fun with this stuff, you know, and they don't take it too serious. And I think that's a big reason why, you know, this team is doing what it's doing is because Dan Campbell knows how to have a little bit of fun too.
Absolutely.
You know, that's a big part of this. You can't be so serious all the time. I tend to be a little bit too serious all the time, but you gotta be able to let your hair down a little bit, you know, and just kind of let things be what they are in the moment. Be able to laugh, you know, a little bit. Laughter keeps you healthy. So, all right, let's get into some NFL news. Yesterday, the Kansas City Chiefs, the team that I thought that was not going to have a chance in hell this year, I really thought that they were going to fall off the cliff along with the 49ers. Well, I was 50-50, right? I got 50% of it right. The 49ers have absolutely fallen apart this year, mostly because of injuries. And I want to say that, you know, when you look at what's happening to the 49ers, guys, that is absolutely who could be our Detroit Lions right now. I mean, when you look at a team that is absolutely fallen apart because of injuries, and they've had maybe a third of the injuries that the Lions have had, where could our team be right now? If we were in that same boat, we wouldn't be talking Super Bowl. We wouldn't even be talking playoffs right now. And I think that is another big testament. I know I'm going off topic here of the Chiefs' #1 seed, but I think it's another big testament to Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes and how they have built this roster. And another reason why, and I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, right? But another reason why you can't just buy a team. You can't just buy, you know, the best left tackle, the best defensive end, the best defensive tackle, the best corner. You can't just buy them all. You have to build through the draft. And then you have to be extremely good at finding guys after the fact. And that is what Brad Holmes has done. This team is so deep because of how we have drafted that we are in the position we are in now where, yeah, we've lost a lot of players, but we are still in the driver's seat heading to a Super Bowl run here in the playoffs. So I guess let me shift gears here for a moment. What do you guys think about, I'll start with you, Eric. What do you think about the 49ers falling apart this year and how the Lions could be in that same situation, but we aren't?
Well, the San Francisco 49ers have went to 3 consecutive NFC championship games. Okay. Whether they won it or lost it and went to the Super Bowl or not, they've been to 3 NFC championship games in a row. 21, 22, and 23. All right. That's just an amazing feat in itself right there. And you're right. A lot of their players were not drafted there. And they were brought in. Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey. These guys were brought in. And then for them to have 1 or 2 of their stars go down early in the season this year, all their players are, oh no, he went down. Oh no, he went down too. Oh man. And you could just see it in the way they played. They just hung their head down and started losing games. Dan Campbell doesn't let that go on. So that's a difference in the coaching, I believe. And I had an article here about how the 49ers have fallen off. You know, with a trip to the Super Bowl on the line last January, the visiting Lions jumped out to a 17-point lead at the half before the dream came undone. And, oh, God, it's still like knives stabbing me every time I hear it. The typically sure-handed Josh Reynolds dropped a would-be 4th down conversion. 2 snaps later, a deep ball ricocheted off the helmet of cornerback Kendall Vildor into the waiting hands of 49 receiver Brandon Ayuk for a 51-yard gain that sparked a long touchdown drive. And on the first play of Detroit's ensuing possession, running back Jahmyr Gibbs lost a fumble. And a little less than 12 minutes into the third quarter, Detroit's lead was gone, and they never recovered. They would ultimately drop the heartbreaking decision 34-31.
Who wrote that article? I'm sorry.
Justin Rogers.
Justin Rogers. Yeah, I mean, yeah, last year was obviously an incredibly painful scenario for the Lions. And then this year, it's, you know, it's extremely painful to watch what the 49ers are going through as a team, but I can't say that, you know, I'm you know, apologetic for it.
Last year, they were the #1 seed. They were the juggernaut. This year, we're going to be the #1 seed. This year, we're the juggernaut.
So Riley, what do you think? I mean, if you were the Lions, apparently I want to say words 3 times today. If you were the Lions, falling apart due to injuries, if the roles were reversed, I guess I would say, you probably wouldn't be mad at the situation. You'd be like, well, I mean, hey, shit happens. They got a ton of injuries. But to watch what Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have not only done, and watch how the rest of the coaching staff and the rest of the players that have stepped up and how they played. I mean, 1, have you ever seen anything like that before? 2, would you have expected it? And 3, I mean, I guess, what are your overall thoughts between what the Lions are doing and what the 49ers have done? And I'm going to step away so everyone can hear your answer.
Yeah, I think I think you guys have been spot on and sentient with exactly what you've said, because despite all of the injuries that the Lions have encountered to this point this year, it doesn't feel like the dream is dead. But if I told you at the start of the season, hey, by week 16, you're going to have, Montgomery's going to be out potentially for the year. Maybe he's coming back, but Hutch is out, McNeil's out. The list just goes on and on and on. You would think, well, I guess they'll be punting and waiting on next season, but it doesn't feel like we're in that position. It doesn't feel like we're backing in to the playoffs. I fully expect the Lions to win these last 2, have the number 1 seed. And Dan Campbell's making no excuses, and the standard is not changed. And you remember in the offseason, Dan Campbell, because he talked about his time as a player for the Giants, and he said, we showed up next year, and you could see guys were just celebrating when coaches said we have an early out for practice. They were kind of cutting corners because they thought, well, we just made it to the Super Bowl, and all we got to do is show up, and we'll get back there. And he said, I'm not going to let that happen. So I think that a huge reason why the Lions have had such a successful season, and why I'm confident in them, despite all the injuries. Again, that would be totally understandable. A 49er fan probably right now doesn't feel like they failed this year. You can only endure so much. But Campbell's got a great pulse on the team. He's a great leader. He's clearly a great motivator. Happy as hell that he's the head coach of the Detroit Lions.
I think that's I missed the first part of it. Sorry, I had to bring the pup out, but I think that's a great answer right there. I mean, just how Dan Campbell has such a good pulse on this team, and he's a great motivator. Dan's not going to mince words, right? I mean, he's going to tell you what he feels when he feels it. He's not going to pull punches, and I think that's a big.
To Jamo on Sunday at Chicago, right?
Yeah,
he got straight to the point. He was concise. He said, we don't know what he said, but it was pull your head out of your ass. I'm going to put you back out there. Don't do it again.
Well, yeah, I mean, Eric and I talked about this a couple weeks ago. Who was one of the guys that really needed to step up was Jamo. And Jamo, from a leadership standpoint, like, I don't know if he's ever going to be a leader on a team, but he could be. There's no reason why he can't be. I think he has to put that mindset into, I need to play to the level that these guys are playing, but beyond that, I need to be the individual that these other players, these other leaders on the team are and need me to be. And exactly right. Dan Campbell, he got straight to the point with Jamo, and then Jamo went out and had a great game.
Yeah, he responded.
And that's ticky-tacky stuff that I think that happened in that Bears game. I think that if Jamo were to understand one thing and one thing only, it's that the Lions are targeted by the refs, and that's not an excuse. Whatever Jamo does, whatever Branch does, is under a microscope. So you just have to be a little bit smarter, in what you're doing. You can't maybe not spin the ball on the sideline. Maybe you got to go out on the field and spin the ball. But thinking of that stuff as it happens can be a little bit difficult for anybody when you're in the moment, right?
Sure.
And those are things we can't penalize Jamo for, because I mean he's a player. He's out there having fun. He's probably not thinking that I'm going to get a flag for spinning the ball. But they probably, considered it, some sort of taunting, if you will. But anyway, all great answers. But to speak more clearly here on the 49ers situation, yeah, they've gone through quite a few injuries.
Yeah, McCaffrey was out, right? Like, I remember finding out like an hour before their opening game. And he missed a huge chunk of time. I know Purdy's out. So anytime you're missing your best player and your quarterback, it's still kind of surprising to me to see them in the position that they're in. But I'm not unhappy about it.
Well, I mean, I have to be totally honest. I'm really surprised because just missing McCaffrey is not enough to have the season that they've had.
For sure.
Just missing one player. Look, the Lions have been down Montgomery. We've been down Gibbs before. We've been down Amon-Ra. We've been down Laporta. We've been down all sorts of players. We've been down Jamo for multiple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Hutch
has been gone since week 6, and then he can continue to pile on from there. We haven't slowed down. Matter of fact, we ripped off 11 wins in a row. And is it because we had an easy schedule? Absolutely not. We have one of the most difficult schedules. But when you look at their team, I mean, they're down. I can go all the way back to August 28th. So just getting towards the first game of the season, they were only down John Hargrave. He was put on injured reserve. Curtis Robinson, a linebacker. Drake Jackson, defensive end. And neither of those guys, other than John Hargrave, were like starter status, right? Brandon Ayuk went down November 15th.
And he had his contract dispute going into the season.
Right.
You know, he's kind of holding out. And
yeah, the parity there is crazy, right? I mean, he's holding out and then he comes in and gets injured. He's done.
Yeah.
November, I mean, thankfully for him, he got his contract done, because had he not, then he would have been playing on that contract. He would have been screwed.
Yeah.
November 17th, they lost a couple of more backups. November 24th, 25th, they lost a couple of more backups. And then December 3rd, they lost Christian McCaffrey to injured reserve. Again.
I think
Now, he was not on... Yeah, he was not on injured reserve, I don't believe, for the entire season. I think they just held him as a roster spot so that he could rehab. Kind of like what David Montgomery's doing.
Yeah. And I think Goff and Skipper have the same amount of touchdown receptions as Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, that's crazy to hear. Jordan Mason, one of the running backs, was lost on December 7th. So then they lost Isaac Guerrero in this last week. I mean, the last week of games, they lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They lost like 7 guys since December 23rd. So up until then, they really haven't had a ton of missing guys. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, sure. Brandon Ayuk, I get it. But that's only 2 players on the offense. Their defense largely intact. So I just don't see how they've let things fall apart, but I guess I expected that this was going to be a tougher season for them. Eric, final thoughts on the injury situation for the 49ers and how they've kind of just fallen apart? And we'll move on.
There's one more thing we haven't talked about. So the 49ers made 2 significant alterations to their coaching staff, replacing defensive coordinator Steve Wilks with Nick Sorensen, a former NFL safety who served as the team's passing game coordinator in 2023. Additionally, former Chargers coach Brandon Staley was added as an assistant head coach to Kyle Shanahan. So they got a few new coaches. Is that playing a factor in all of this also?
Yeah, I think that happens with any situation in the NFL where coaches are being changed, and I'm just hoping it doesn't happen with the Lions this next year. I'm hoping that we have the right guys waiting, in the wings, or the right guys on the radar that aren't going to let the Lions stumble. I don't think that Dan Campbell's going to let us stumble. I mean, Dan could definitely take over play calling if he really wanted to on the offense. He's done it before. He can do it again. This is, that's a whole nother topic for another day, but Dan Campbell, to use Riley's word, has a pulse on this offense. It's his offense. He's just lent it. He's just lent it to Ben Johnson. You know what I mean?
They asked in the St. Brown podcast yesterday with Jamo, they asked him, EQ asked, he said, hey, since I got both you guys, I wanted to ask, what does Dan Campbell usually do? What is he coaching? And they said, he's everything. But Amon-Ra said essentially, both Amon-Ra and Jamo said, if anything, he's more offense.
Yeah, he's an offensive-minded coach.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So to think that they don't work in the NFL anymore, you're wrong. But that's exactly why the NFL has been trending in the direction it has been, is more offensive-minded. It's been that way for the last 15 years. And the Super Bowl winners prove that. I mean, we talked about that a few times this season, where the majority of Super Bowl winners have the best offense and, not the greatest defense, but a good defense. So in the chat here, Greg Allspaw, I hope I pronounced your last name correctly, said that this is a great chat. And Greg, you're absolutely 1000% correct. And I want to highlight the chat for a moment. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, you would be joining not only good content every day, at least we seem to think it's pretty good content, but you'll also be getting an amazing community of Lions fans that talk nothing but Lions all day. It's a great community to be a part of. Not a bunch of riffraff or anything going on in this channel, just good, wholesome people that love their Detroit Lions. And we appreciate you guys showing up each and every day. So thank you. And thank you, Greg, for pointing that out to everybody in the chat. So Chiefs lock up the 1 seed yesterday. I'm a bit surprised that they actually pulled this off. I did not expect the Chiefs to beat the Steelers. I thought that the Steelers would be able to handle their business. So I guess the first question is, are we now looking at a Chiefs and Lions potential Super Bowl matchup? If the Lions can lock down the 1 seed, would you think that those are going to be the two teams that are going to meet in the end? Eric, we'll start with you. Do you think that if the Lions get the 1 seed, or when the Lions get the 1 seed, do you think that it's going to end up being Lions and Chiefs?
Well, seeing as last February, right after the Super Bowl, I placed a bet for the Lions to defeat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl this year. That is the game I'm going with. That's the game I've been going with all season, that it's going to be Lions and Chiefs, and the Lions are going to stop the three-peat.
I would agree with that as far as they would stop the three-peat. I don't think the Chiefs, even with a 1 seed, make it. What do you think, Riley?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's one of the things I like about you guys is your opinions. They can evolve depending on what happens, but you guys say the same stuff. Because I know you called that Will from the start of the season, and I know Eric, you were, so the script, no reason to change now.
Yep.
I feel like I way underestimated the Bills a few weeks ago. I know I was on the show. I think I said they were 70% going to, beat Buffalo. I won't be surprised if the Chiefs lose to Buffalo, maybe even Baltimore. But at the same time, I know it's a cop-out answer, but they have Mahomes. They've won 15 of 16 games, or 14 to 15, whatever they're at now. And they're the defending champs. And so I feel like they probably will get back to the Super Bowl. But I wouldn't be surprised either way, honestly. But bring on anybody. I'd probably rather play Kansas City than Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd want to play Kansas City over Buffalo again. Honestly, I'm in the same boat. I really don't care who the Lions have to go. Who the Lions have to.
I'm confident we will. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm not real concerned on who the Lions would face in a Super Bowl situation. I think that they have the right team still, even though we're hurt, big time with injuries. We're missing a lot of guys. I'm still not concerned on who the Lions are going to face. I think the result's going to be the same no matter what. If it's the Chiefs, I'll be honest. I think the Chiefs are somewhat of frauds to a degree. I hate to use even the word frauds. I got to find another word. I don't think that there is real. Yeah, I don't think that they're as real of a team as maybe is what's being broadcasted. They've been helped out a ton this season by the refs. Everybody knows it. Everybody talks about it. They've won some close games, some very close games. I mean, hell, the Panthers almost beat them, right? The Raiders almost beat them. The Chargers should have beat them. Who else came close? Texans came close. Texans were overmatched in that game, but again, the refs helped them. The Buccaneers almost beat them. The Raiders almost beat them twice this last season.
The Broncos.
The Broncos are a good team. And again, another close game decided by the refs.
Yep.
That's what I hate to see. I hate to see games decided by the refs. The Bengals almost beat them. 1 point differential. The Ravens were within 7 points. We beat them in the preseason, not that even matters. The Bears beat them in the preseason, not that matters.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at their schedule, they had a 1 point win over the Bengals. They had a 5 point win over the Falcons. They play the Chargers, twice this season? So they lost the first game. I'm sorry, they won the first game by 7. They had a 7-point win over the Raiders, a 6-point win over the Bucks, a 2-point win over the Broncos, a 9-point win over the Bills beat them by 9. The Panthers lost by 3. That's probably how I should frame it. The Panthers lost by 3, not that the Chiefs won, because I feel like the Chiefs were helped out in a lot of these games. The Raiders lost by 2. The Chargers then lost by 2. Yesterday's game was probably the most dominant game I've seen from the Chiefs all season.
Yep.
I think, Will, it sounds kind of like instead of saying, like you're saying frauds, maybe they're more pretender than actual contender, right?
I would say that that's a good statement. I don't believe that even with the Chiefs healthy, with everybody that they have, that their roster compares to the Lions roster at all. I think that the Lions have a much better roster. The difference is going to be scheme and coaching. I think that the Chiefs have a very good scheme. I think that Mahomes does a lot of off-schedule crap. Yesterday, matter of fact, didn't he do that backhanded pass yesterday? They went for a first down?
I don't remember seeing that.
I thought I read something because I missed part of the game. So I thought I read something where he did the backhanded flip and it went for like a first down, the same play that he used against the Lions.
Ugh.
I just know Austin Cunningham, who's part of Talking Football, who we'll see a lot more of coming up here on the other channel. But I was texting with him the other day, and he's like, man, this team is not playing well. And he's a diehard Chiefs fan, but talking to him, I would think there's no way in hell that record's 14-1, 15-1. The way he talks about them, that I'd think that they're like 6 wins. So that they are for sure underwhelming. It'd be good to get him on here to go into more depth of that. If that ends up being the matchup, that would be a hell of a show.
Yeah, we've been planning on it. We got to make the time to get people on. So the thing that I see with the Chiefs though is just kind of, I guess I'm going to echo what you just said. I don't see them being a dominant team. I see them having more holes and more issues with the team this season than they have in seasons past. But where I was going earlier is that this is a team that has more off-scheduled stuff. Yesterday, I saw a pass that went to Travis Kelce that I thought was the slickest pass I've seen in a long time. Just the way that Mahomes positioned himself to make the throw and how Kelce sold it. I mean, it was just a quick leak out of the backfield, into the short zone right there, over in the flat. And just the way that he made a play. And then Travis Kelce acted like he was going to lateral the ball backwards. So it's those kind of things that, that they do that catch other teams by surprise. And I think that those are some of the things that our team, the Detroit Lions, does have issues with, is off-schedule stuff. We've seen it against the Bills. If the Chiefs are going to win this game, it's going to be because they are going to elevate their scheme to really try to confuse the hell out of any team that they go up against. I just don't see them getting 2 wins in the postseason playing that way and making it to the Super Bowl. I don't think that the Chiefs make it. And if they do make it, I'm going to call it right now. There's going to be some controversy with the refs. I guarantee it. It's been that way all season. We know that the NFL wants to make money. That is the only thing that they're here to do anymore, is to entertain and make money. And by putting the Chiefs into the Super Bowl for a 3rd season in a row is going to create a lot of airwaves and a lot of articles. It's going to create a lot of money for the NFL. It just will. But putting the Lions in the Super Bowl will create more money for the NFL. And the Lions winning a Super Bowl is extremely good for football business. It's something that I've been talking about for well over a year now with the Lions. And we've seen it. Ticket prices have skyrocketed. Secondary markets are out of control. As much gear has been sold this season, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions have probably sold more gear than any other team. Not just talking jerseys, I'm talking overall. So I guess to get back on topic here, I just don't see the Chiefs being this team that nobody can beat. I think that they're beatable, but they have locked up the 1 seed, so now they have the favorite with home field advantage from now to the end of the season until their season ends. Moving forward here to talk about the Steelers, since they went up against the Steelers yesterday. The Steelers have now lost 3 in a row. Here's my question. Are they the team that we thought they were? Really good defense. Yesterday, nobody showed up. The Steelers completely got outplayed. They looked terrible. What do you guys think about the Steelers? Because here's what Patrick Queen said. He says, I can't explain it. It's happening. We keep talking about it. Nobody is doing anything about it. If nobody does anything about what they are supposed to be doing, then we don't have any room for it. And the question is fixing an ailing defense that has allowed 27 points in each of the last 3 straight losses. What is the one thing, Eric, that I talk about, right? You can't give up more than how many points if you plan on winning the game?
20 points.
20 points. And the Steelers are consistently giving up 27 plus in each of the last three losses. So are the Pittsburgh Steelers a team that we thought that they were going to be? Eric, your 2 cents on the Steelers, and Riley, same question for you.
I didn't in the beginning of the year, I didn't think that the Steelers were going to be all that great. I think they've overachieved myself. Having Justin Fields and Russ, let Russ cook, I think Russ has had kind of a comeback kind of a year. He might be comeback player of the year this year. I thought it was going to be Kirk Cousins, but it didn't end up being him at all. But yeah, I think the Steelers are more overachieving than anything.
Yeah, I think they're kind of coming back down to their, falling back to kind of where you expected them to be. I'm with Eric. I didn't think, whatever point I was like, man, Pittsburgh's 8-3. And, I just wasn't aware because, there was a controversy at the QB position for him going early part of the season. It's just crazy because the NFC, we've got all these teams that, as great a year the Lions are having, the Vikings are right there. The Eagles are there. Packers are still a good team. It just feels like all these, the real contenders kind of feels like it's on the NFC side of things. Would you guys love if you woke up and somehow the news was broken to you that the Lions were playing in the Super Bowl and the opponent was Pittsburgh? Knowing Eric and actually Will and probably 90% of the people in the chat, tickets would be purchased. You guys would be going to the game. You guys would be, planning not only going, but planning on celebrating a win. I don't think Pittsburgh's, anything to fear.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are the team that we thought. I think that it was a great story. Sorry, I got to look something up. I thought it was a great story. With Russ and, going there and Justin Fields going there. I thought that they made a mistake by putting, Russ in over Justin, but then it worked out. And now they're just, they're up against it too. And they're definitely not the team that I thought that they were heading into the postseason. So again, it's not another team that I'm really worried about, but I will say this. A Mike Tomlin coach team is a good coach team.
Sure. Absolutely.
And if anybody can, get that team righted in a week, it's Mike Tomlin. He's had 19 straight seasons of a plus 500 winning record. So I think it's good to know that if a team can do it, it's him.
100%. Yep.
So what's up next year, guys? Let's see here. LeBron James. So sticking with the NFL news, LeBron James decided to poke the bear, if you will. He calls scheduling Christmas games for the NFL a turf war with the NBA. I thought LeBron James retired. Isn't he like 60 years old?
Still going, man. He's still.
It looks like it.
I mean, the guy talks about being the GOAT, and all he does is get on these hand-picked teams. Sorry, being a Detroit Lions, or Detroit Pistons fan, I was still a fan of Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan didn't handpick his teams. That dude done way more with his time in the NBA than LeBron James ever could. I don't care about how many points you score or any of that. That doesn't matter to me. I care about defense. You don't play defense. LeBron James is the biggest crybaby in the NBA, has been for a long time. The fact that he's coming out and calling this a turf war, hey, what's the old adage? Hey, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. Well, maybe you got to put some good Christmas Day games up. Maybe the NFL thought that they could produce a better day of entertainment for Christmas Day fans. I think they failed. Eric, what do you think about that?
Well, listen, those two games, looking at them on paper, those are two good games. Those are all playoff teams trying to lock up seeds, lock up divisions, seeding, positioning. You would think that those four teams would have made, because the week before was the same four teams, just in a different order, and they were great games. You flip the order, and now these games were garbage. Yeah, I don't know what happened from one week to the next.
They were fairly dominant teams, or dominant games for the team that won.
Yeah.
They just weren't really fun games to watch, if you will.
Not very competitive. And since 2020, the NFL has pursued games on Christmas with significant wins over the NBA each year. In order to get four teams ready to play on a Wednesday this year, the league pushed their games the previous week to Saturday, taking advantage of an opening in the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961 that allows them to play on Saturdays after the first week of December. And we talked about that law last week a little bit. And I'm telling you what, the NFL is going to push it and push it and push it until someone stops them. And I don't think anybody's going to stop them.
Yesterday was really uneventful games, but part of the Steelers' loss, I think, to the Chiefs. I mean, it was a game that everybody expects, the pass rush, right, to be so dominant for Pittsburgh Steelers. They had zero pass rush yesterday. So TJ Watt, one of the best to do it in the league, he didn't get to Patrick Mahomes at all yesterday. Patrick Mahomes was completely unbothered by anything that the Steelers were doing. So even though they have one of the best to do it, he couldn't even get to Patrick Mahomes. I think that's something to pay attention to. The way you stop Mahomes, maybe not through the pass rush, maybe not through trying to get sacks. There's got to be another way, and I think that's what the Lions do well, is they figure out a way, which is typically, corral chaos, create chaos, corral the guy, just don't let him use his legs to beat you, force him to use his arm. But at some point, you've got to make sure that Mahomes is getting rid of this ball in under 3.5 seconds. I think at the longest. That's a long time still. Eric, you had a quick segment here on Lamar Jackson. So what did Lamar Jackson do yesterday? And then we'll move on to some Lions news.
Yeah. So Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson broke Michael Vick's record for the most rushing yards by a quarterback in NFL history. Jackson accomplished this feat in only his 102nd game. Vick played in 143, and he will have plenty of time to add to his 6,110 yards in the years to come. So it's absolutely unreal how many rush, and he had a huge rush yesterday. It was for 70 yards or so. He broke free on a broken play, and he was off to the races and scored a very long rushing touchdown yesterday. I think he actually had more rushing than Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry let up the safety yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that play. That's a question that I was going to ask today. I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it for Lions news. Hold on. Let me add that in here because it's a redraft. It's a redraft question. All right. Riley, real quick. What did you have today that you wanted to get to right now that's either Lions news or NFL news?
Yeah, I thought I saw yesterday an article from Dave Burkett of the Detroit Free Press, and it was Christian Mahogany. There's a photo of it on the article, and he's showing his phone. So it's one of these things where he's like, man, I was saying this, but he's got the receipt to show. So a week after the Shrine game, so this was early February, he has evidently a group of friends that he plays Madden with. And he said to these guys in the, excuse me, in the group text, I want to be in Detroit. Me and Penei Sewell, he's like, this is an O-line place. This is a gritty team. This is where I want to be. I thought it was a really cool article, and it was one of those things we talked about it before the show started that you always see. I remember when Brady Quinn was drafted by the Browns, and then he's got a photo of him when he was like 8 years old in the Brown shirt. And, these guys are always like, man, that's the team I wanted to play for. And then it actually comes to fruition. I know, Will, you were very high on Mahogany, and you were high on him, confident in him fulfilling his role last week against Chicago, and he did just that. Really cool story. Just another guy that you look at and you're like, man, I'm glad that Brad Holmes drafted Christian Mahogany, and it sounds like Mahogany is glad that Brad Holmes drafted him as well.
I think it's one of those things that we've been talking about, right? Where the Detroit Lions are becoming this destination station, if you will. Players want to come here. Rookies want to come here. And the agents of these players want them to come here. And this is just another one, another statement, from a player that he wanted to be part of what the Detroit Lions were doing. But more importantly, I think that this is an offensive line team. Like, this is a team that wants their offense and defensive lines to be the best. I mean, they start with the trenches and they kind of work their way out beyond that. That's what Brad Holmes has kind of done. He started from the inside and then he worked his way out. And I'm sure that that's what Mahogany had seen is, you got Hank Fraley, one of the best offensive, minds as far as offensive lines in the league. And then he comes in and does what he does, went 9, 10, 12 different formations last year and this year with having, well, not this year so much, but last year and the year before where you have injuries and we're having to move guys around. And we really didn't skip a beat. Yeah, we had some issues at times, but still remained one of the best offensive lines in the league. So when a young offensive lineman sees that, of course they want to be part of it. And of course you want to play next to a guy named Penei Sewell.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt. Right? Doesn't hurt at all. So I think it's kind of cool that Mahogany wanted to be part of this team, and he slipped big time in this draft.
It's such a good point that you make, Will, because you think about like Terrion Arnold. Imagine that this team trades up to get you first round. I mean, yeah, these players are like, man, it's you're interviewing for a job. It's like, that's the one that I really want. I hope that they hire me. And it's crazy that in just a short few years, the Lions have that reputation now. Any player that's coming into the draft, you're spot on, Will. That's if you get picked by the Lions, that alone should make you even more confident in who you are and what you represent as a player. Now just go do it.
Right. Exactly. Eric, what are your thoughts on Mahogany?
Well, I'll tell you this. If I was an NFL player getting drafted, that is the one team I would want to go to is the Detroit Lions, because they cultivate their own and they pay their own. They're not just bringing in high. I don't have to worry about, are they going to bring in a free agent to replace me because I'm asking for too much money? Or no, they take care of their own. And Mahogany, he's a dirtbag, and I love it.
I can't remember how he got the dirtbag name, but I mean, it's a great name. I just don't know how he got it. I remember doing a video on it.
Yep.
I just don't remember how he got the name.
I almost want to get a Mahogany jersey with the name Dirtbag on the back.
Absolutely. Why not?
Yeah, I might do it. I might have to.
All right, we're going to do a quick promo here for Talking Football, and then up next, Riley is going to give you a little bit of a promo here, a little bit of information on the new podcast, joining Rocked On Podcast Network, and then we're going to get straight into all of the Lions news. We're going to talk a little bit more 49ers, but we've got roster moves coming up. There's a lot of things that have been kind of going on the last few days. I'm going to talk about one redraft from last year, Jamo on the St. Brown podcast, and all that and more coming up here in the second hour of Rocked On Detroit Lions.
Big guys in the huddle, man, talking football. NFL, college, man, they cover it all. Feel the tension, prediction, and a call. Fantasy life and rise or fall. Talking football night and day. NFL and college, hey, hey. Bets and stats, they don't play. Fantasy champs on our way. Guitars, roaring hearts, beating fast. Catch a pass, score, man, have a blast. Three voices, keeping it clear. Listen up, the season's here. Guitars, roaring hearts, beating fast. Catch a pass, score, man, have a blast. Three voices, keeping it clear. Listen up, the season's here. Talking football night and day. NFL and college, hey, hey. Bets and stats, they don't play. Fantasy champs on our way. Guitars, roaring hearts, beating fast. Catch a pass, score, man, have a blast. Three voices, keeping it clear.
All right. So Brent DeWitt just reminded everybody that it was Brad Holmes that called Mahogany the dirtbag at the press conference. That's where it came from. Thanks, Brent, for jogging the memory here. That's man, Brad is he's so full of good one-liners, isn't he?
It's a hell of a compliment.
It is. I mean, it really is a compliment. It's how he plays the game, and he plays the game like a dirtbag, I guess. He's just always getting dirty. He's doing the dirty work and the little things that maybe don't show up all the time. And Michael Lukey's also shared that same take there, same information about Brad Holmes. I want to make sure I don't leave anybody out. So thanks, Michael Lukey's and Brent DeWitt. So Riley, we have a new podcast. It's going to be generative, content as far as, videos coming from the podcast and hot takes and all different, types of content that's going to come from this show. But explain a little bit about, because you know these guys really well, but explain the Talkin' Football podcast and what we should expect here, not just as Lions fans, but NFL fans moving forward.
Yeah, it's going to be just like you said. It's not just Lions fans. I mean, this is NFL. It's league wide. It's college. It's draft. It's for people like us whose appetite for football is insatiable. These guys have you covered. I'm part of Talking Football. It started in 2019. The main hosts were Justin Treese and Austin Cunningham, and then a few years into it, Dan Kiefer came on board and he joined. And so those are the three voices of Talking Football. It's Justin Treese, Austin Cunningham, and Dan Kiefer. And those are the people that you see. And I do want to say, Will, thank you so much for making that song and that video and everything you've done just to this point. I know the guys and myself were very excited to join the network. The way that this all came together was this offseason, as those guys took a little bit of a break, I said, hey, why don't I just do some interviews with some people? And when I obviously found this show, it took me all of 10 minutes to be like, I'm interviewing him. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to interview this guy. And I'll put the link to that episode in here because it was one of the best interviews I've ever done in my life, as you would expect with Will Rock.
Appreciate that.
We eventually said, look, we'd love to collaborate here. And so here in a short order, we will see a lot more of Justin Treese and Austin Cunningham and Dan Kiefer, and they'll do everything from, as Will said, hot news, breaking news, but they're very opinionated, but they're not biased to their teams. Treese is a Jaguars fan, Austin's a Chiefs fan, and Dan's a Miami Dolphins fan, but they do a great job with draft coverage. They do a great job with betting parlays. They make you money. and they're great football minds, and they've got such great chemistry on the microphone together. So the podcast has come a long way in 6 years, and I felt like it all just kind of led to this point here, and it's about to go next level here on the Rocked On Podcast Network. So it's the Talkin_Football1 is the channel, and yeah, could not be more excited for the collaboration.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And remember, bet responsibly. Of course, they're going to give you guys, good information that works for them. But always remember that it's just advice. It's just conversation. It's just content. It's entertainment. You always need to make sure that you bet responsibly for yourself. But yeah, tell me just, it was Treese, right? That was on like this crazy parlay run.
Yeah, that's Justin Treese doing what Justin Treese does. Now he's the one that did the Jacksonville Jaguars preview show with Will. So a lot of you guys maybe have already kind of gotten acquainted with him, but they always joke at the start of every episode that because once in a while it'll be 2 of the 3, and whoever's the hottest hand is the one that maybe misses that episode that week. But they're all 3 like damn good at what they do. But Treese is kind of the hot hand. Usually he kind of always has been. He's just the guy that traditionally wins the fantasy football league that he's in. But beyond that, he's just, I don't know how he takes it all in. He's a lot like you guys, where he just, takes in so much information, and then he's able to take his thoughts and then, give you digestible information. And then, like I said, Austin Cunningham and Dan Kiefer are, everybody is good, but Treese is on like a 17 parlay thing, recently. So
17 parlays in a row.
Yeah.
It's craziness. Wow. And that's extremely hard. It's hard to win one parlay, let alone 17.
It's like a version of the Rocks Locks, but league wide stuff. So, and they just love football, man. So
it's craziness.
It's great. It's going to be great. Eric, we were talking about it before we hit record. You're, into the betting stuff, and I'm like Will. I'm not, and I like that Will says, do it responsibly. But I just think for me, it's because I haven't been able to get to the point of if I know if I open that door, I'm not going to be able to close it. And just the way fantasy football, I'll go winless in fantasy football if the Lions win every game. But even this year, when the Lions have won most games, the weeks I've lost, I've been so bummed out. So I don't want to have, betting on top of that. But for these guys, I'm proud to be part of the podcast that does such a great job.
We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, and the secret to betting responsibly is if someone like me sends you, Riley, my link for my DraftKings, right? Mm-hmm. You deposit $50 or $100, you get $50 in free bets, I get $50 in free bets, right? Don't ever deposit any more money than your initial $50 or $100. Just keep it at that. That's what you can afford to lose. Play with it. Have fun. Do crazy bets, but do them for $1. Don't just take your $100 and bet it all on one thing.
Yeah, don't do Eric and put $1,500 on one.
Hey, don't be putting that out there.
The analogy works though, because it came from his pile. But yeah,
yes, I have quite the stack. I started with $200 from 2 years ago, and I've built it up to $4,000 or $5,000 now. And I made some significant bets on this weekend's 49er game. I'm trying to get my Super Bowl ticket paid for.
There you go. Well, I hope it all works out for you. So let's get to some Lions news. So I know Motown Mitch is just itching to talk about projected return dates, but we've had a little bit of a little bit of transactions going on the last couple of days. So the Lions had let go. They had waived David Long. Now, this one was a little bit unexpected for me. I figured that David Long was probably going to stick around the majority of the season, but I can only imagine that the Lions are trying to make some room right now. But David Long is long gone. He's done with the Lions for the rest of the season, not only because the Lions waived him, but he was picked up almost immediately. Who was he picked up by, Eric?
The Tennessee Titans, his former team.
On Wednesday. So on Wednesday, the team that drafted him in the 6th round of the 2019 draft, they also brought him back off of waivers. So they clearly didn't want to lose David Long. They wanted him to be part of the team. The Lions poached him, used him for a few games, and now he's back down with his former team. So I don't understand what's going on here as to why exactly we're waiving this guy. I really don't know. I can't give you an answer. And the reason why is because we don't have any definitive return dates for Alex Anzalone or anybody else.
It's Jalen Reeves-Maybin.
Well, he's already been back, right? As of last week?
Well, he was practicing, but I think this week he comes back.
Okay, so with Jalen Reeves-Maybin coming back, wasn't he already on the 53-man?
No, he was not activated. He was in his practice window. So for 3 weeks, he gets that chance to practice with the team. So this means that Jalen Reeves-Maybin is back this week. That's what that means.
I thought that they actually elevated him and then healthy scratched him last week.
No, he was just on his practice window. They started his practice window last Monday.
Yeah, okay. So on the 19th, they opened the practice window. He was designated to return from injured reserve Thursday. Yeah, so he was brought back. So this doesn't make any sense to me. So according to this article, Reeves-Maybin was designated to return from IR on Thursday of last week. And he was a limited participant in practice. So hold on here.
Yeah.
It's not eligible to be activated, return to game action.
I figured that's what it had to mean, is that somebody was being activated, but I wasn't sure. I was actually, I'm glad this came up because I wasn't sure who. We haven't had any definitive dates, at least not that I've.
So I'll be completely honest here. I review a lot of different, injury in type information. I think that the NFL does something. At least the Lions don't do it well. Like, they should have an area on their website that has everything listed in not only chronological order, but dates, times, and what is actually happening with that player.
Yep.
Whether it's Tim Twentyman that has to do the article and update it, or it's part of the PR team that has to do it and update it, they need to have a section on every NFL's website that puts everything in order. You know what I mean? That you could just go and get the information. Like right now, if I wanted to visit, like if I type in Lions injury or injured reserve updates or something, right? I could visit, let's say, Pride of Detroit, injury updates. This is on December 23. It says, last week, linebacker Jalen Reeves-Maybin returned to practice, starting his 21-day elevation window while he remains on injured reserve. Campbell wouldn't fully commit to anything, but he noted that Reeves-Maybin could potentially play this week. Then he went into a quote, and then it says, if Reeves-Maybin can't play, the Lions have a plethora of linebackers that they've relied upon lately against the Bears. The Lions could use a combination of Jack Campbell, Ben Nyman, Trevor Nowoski, Ezekiel Turner, and Anthony Pittman. Pittman did play, by the way. And Nyman got an unprompted shout out from his head coach on Monday. And that's it. No dates. No real update. No dates. There needs to be dates. So I'm not calling out Jeremy Reisman, but I guess I'm calling out, let's do a better job with dates and stuff. Otherwise, I'm going to have to start tracking it. And I really don't want to do that. But someone needs to put exact dates out there for things that are going on. Because you'd have to go look through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 articles, whatever it is, to try to find all of the relevant information. Now, when I go to the Lions website, I don't see anything. Yep. I don't see anything.
We almost missed it, but we got a super chat from Greg Alspa. He says, thanks, guys. $1.99 super chat.
Oh, appreciate you, Greg. I'm sorry. I didn't see it pop up. I had the chat closed for a minute.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, so like when I go to the Week 16 updates, it talks about the Week 16 game. When you go to the Detroit Lions depth chart, it has the depth chart. It doesn't have any dates, or it doesn't have anything. There's nothing in here that talks about, there's an injury report. And for week 17, it's blank. And that's just for the game stuff. When you go to the roster, that's another gripe that I have. In this roster, it should have these guys separated by practice squad. They have it separated by injuries. Oh, this one has practice squad now. They have it separated by injured reserve, but it doesn't have anything in here as to what their latest news is. You know what I mean? It's just really hard to find. Anyway, enough. I'll get off my soapbox.
You're good,
I just wish that they would do a better job with it, because it's hard for fans to find information as it is, because you've got all these people writing articles, and half of the time they don't even mesh. Or it's the same article that is being reused in all these different websites, and you've learned nothing from it.
Yeah, it gets conflicting.
It does, big time. So redraft. I've got a quick question for you guys on a redraft.
Hey, real quick, Will. Trace asked them. I'm glad she did. She asked for the link for the interview that you and I did for Talking Football. I just wanted to make mention. I just posted that there in the chat. I'll leave it as a comment in the show too. Anybody that hasn't had a chance yet to listen to that, please give it a listen. Will gave me like an hour and a half, and I didn't even get to all the questions, but was such a good interview. But the link is in the chat.
Yeah, I just pinned it. So if you guys want to listen to it later, it looks like it's on Apple. I can't remember your Spotify link, but I've got an idea for you. I'll talk to you about it after the show.
Okay.
So the redraft. So I'm going to throw this out there. I watched a guy this weekend by the name of Kamari Lassiter, who got the tackle for safety on Henry. So my question is, after watching how Kamari Lassiter's he's had a really good season. He's had a really good season. He's got, he's got 3 interceptions on the year, 2 of which he got versus the Lions. In, let's see, when was that? November 10th. He had 2 interceptions versus us. He's had a really good season.
Who does he play for?
Texans.
Texans. Okay.
The Texans grabbed him, I want to say, 46th overall. Hold on. 42nd pick overall in this last draft. Where was Rakestraw taken?
Second round. In the 60s, I think.
I can't remember exactly what his draft number was. So he was round 2, pick 29, which is towards the end of the round, right? So it's got to be, it's got to be
high 50s, low 60s.
Yeah, it's like 60, 61, somewhere in that range. Anyway, watching how Kamari Lassiter's had a really good season so far, would you guys question whether or not the Lions should have moved up? So they would have had to have moved from 61 all the way up to 42 to take Kamari Lassiter. But just watching how dependable he's been and how well he has played. Kool-Aid McKinstry was also taken at 41. Cooper DeJean was taken at 40. There was a run right there. Max Melton was taken at 43. It was just a run on corners between 40 and 43. So 4 picks in a row, all cornerbacks. And then at 50, Mike Sainristil was taken. So the question is, were the Lions out, I guess, of the bigger opportunities for corners? They went early in that second round. The redraft question is, would you rather seen the Lions move up if they were going to double down like they did? Or do you think that the chips just kind of fell where they may and that's just what they were going to do? We'll start with you, Riley.
Yeah, I think that's such a great question. I remember because going into the draft, I thought if they don't trade, there was a period of time where I felt like they were going to probably go receiver. So when they went cornerback and then doubled down on it, so you take Arnold, and then when they took Rakestraw, it was kind of a surprising pick because there was a time where Rakestraw, for a large period of that draft season, he was even possibly mocked to Lions in the first round. So when I saw, oh, they're doubling down, the only thought I had was that just tells me that Brad Holmes feels like Rakestraw is a better corner than any receiver that's left as a receiver. And we haven't seen a ton of Rakestraw playing yet. And I'm sure there were some other good players that they, were available that you just mentioned. But I kind of fall in line where I'm like, nah, I think Brad Holmes, he's usually gotten his picks right. And so I don't know that they trade Rakestraw straight across for any of those players right now. So I'm waiting to see more of Rakestraw, but I like that pick. The more I thought about it again, because I thought that just tells me Brad Holmes is confident in him.
Well, I guess let me clear the air. I like Rakestraw. There was an article that actually came out about a week before the draft that said that the Lions should run away from Rakestraw because he's oft injured. And there was some other things that were being said about him. And I thought, that's interesting. Why is this article coming out that the Lions should run away from Rakestraw? And then they take Rakestraw. Maybe the Lions were intentionally having these articles put out there. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that goes on during the draft. But then, so Renardo Green was taken at 32. So there was, Renardo Green was still available. I think here's my answer. But first, I want to get Eric's answer. Rakestraw or move up and take Kamari Lassiter, or move up and take anybody else, above the 50s, because they had a shot at Nealon. They had a shot at Chris Braswell. They had a shot at, let's see, who else is up there? I don't think they would have taken Mike Sainristra. I think he's too small. Chris Jenkins, they had a shot at him at 49. Mason Smith at 48. So do you think that, moving up to take the better cornerback so far this season in Lassiter made any sense?
Well, I'm going to stick with what I said last week. I think that Rakestraw needs to put on about 10 pounds, 5 to 10 pounds, because he's like a $180, $183, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his downfall in college, is that he was often injured. But that doesn't scare away Brad Holmes. When he sees talent, he goes after talent. And in the preseason, Rakestraw was tearing it up. I thought he played very well in the preseason, and he might be a player that just needs a second season. They may shut him down completely this year. We may not see another snap from Rakestraw for this season. This may just be a redshirt freshman season for him. But I fully expect to see Rakestraw and Arnold be our number 1 and number 2 corners moving into the future after this season.
Yeah, I do too. And so Arf had a question. He's like, assuming you can just move up in the draft. That's a great question. And yeah, I looked at all of that. So pick.
Well, do we miss out on Mahogany or Manu? Or
maybe, but pick 39, pick 40, pick 41, 42, 43, all were traded. All those picks had a trade attached to them. Pick 45, 46, 47, all had trades attached to them. Pick 52 and 53 had trades attached to them. And had the Lions just got up to pick 53, they would have had a shot at Marshawn Nealon. They would have had a shot at Chris Braswell. They would have had a shot at...
Where did DeJean go?
He went 39, I think. No, 40. He went 40.
And then 41 was Kool-Aid.
Yep. So there was plenty of trades that were happening. And some of those trades were, linked to other trades and deals that had happened, pre-draft. But yeah, teams were in the mood to move. They're more in the mood to move in the second, I feel like, than they are in the first, depending on what's going on. But I feel like the Lions this year are going to have to move up a little bit to get, some of the players that they desperately need. I'll be talking about some draft stuff here pretty soon, but we'll move on. Let's talk about more Lions news. I just thought it was interesting, right? I watched Kamari Lassiter making these big plays. The fact that he took down Henry the way that he did, like, it is hard to take down Henry.
That's very impressive.
Very impressive. Very, very, very impressive. So roster moves. We'll finish this up. So, like I said, David Long gone. He is now back with the Titans, I think it was. Quan Alexander. What's going on with Quan Alexander here? So Quan,
He's back to the practice squad, isn't he?
hold on here. Yeah, I read something on it a little bit ago. I got all these ads popping up for some reason.
Maurice Alexander went back to the practice squad.
Well, they signed Maurice Alexander back and somebody else.
And
One
David
was a-
Smith. Or
David Smith, defensive tackle. Chris Smith.
Chris Smith.
So that's it so far. So does it mean that Reese Maven's going to get elevated actually to the 53 this week? Possibly.
I think so.
Pittman's already back. You know, the Lions are not in bad shape when it comes to the linebacker room, but we're going up against a team that, you know, they do a lot of work over the middle when they want to. I don't know that they're going to be able to this week, but we'll see with their injury status what it is. This is a week that I think that the Lions are going to have to finally put a little bit of pressure on Brock Purdy. He's been getting a ton of pressure against teams that blitz. Over 50% of the blitzes are resulting in pressure against Brock Purdy and the 49ers. So I think that that's what the Lions are probably trying to dial up right now is how do we get more pressure? And how do we turn it into turnovers and interceptions and sacks and TFLs? I think that has to be the idea this week. You know, you have to go all out. I mean, let's be honest. Even if we win this game, unless the Vikings lose, it's off to week 18 before anything is settled. So if the Vikings don't lose and the Lions win, week 18 is going to happen regardless. But it's going to be a needed game for the Lions to win.
Dan Campbell is going to try to win both games no matter what.
I would hope so.
It's happening. Oh, and by the way, we have the coolest chat in the world. They just came up with a nickname for me, ZZE.
ZZE.
Instead of ZZ Top, it's ZZE.
So he's
That's funny.
Lights, ZZE.
Yeah.
He's gonna get a dirtbag jersey.
Yeah. I got to.
He's got names.
That's funny. ZZE.
Yeah, I love this chat. I love this chat so much.
Yeah. They're
Hey,
going.
All right.
that
Jamo.
reminds me. Yeah,
Oh man.
Jamo finally on the St. Brown podcast. So I will just say this, and I don't know if this is accurate, but allegedly, what I saw in a lot of comments, that Jamo looked stoned out of his mind. That's what everybody was saying in the comments.
See,
And
I
then
watched it. I didn't notice that.
And then I listened to it a little bit. I didn't watch it all. And I'm like, I could see that. But is that just the way that Jamo talks?
It's just the way he talks.
yeah.
Very slurry, very southern draw, inner city, down south talk. That's the way Jamo talks.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you can tell after St. Brown and his brother are talking to him for a couple minutes, they start talking like him too.
I didn't notice that. Like I said, I didn't watch it all. It was about an hour and a half long, and I didn't have the time to really put it in. But I will say this: the St. Brown brothers were getting on him big time for some of the things that he was saying when he said that. Yeah, those two guys. You know, what do you say? The two guys.
Two dudes got hit me at
Two
the same
dudes
time.
got to me, or two dudes got me from behind, or something like that, and they just he was like, what did you say? And then he was like, yeah, you know, he put his helmet in me, and he's like, whoa, and it was.
The other dude put his shoulder in my back.
Yeah, it was funny that, you know, they were trying to have some fun with the guy just because of the things that he was saying. But that was the point of the podcast that I watched, where I could see, okay, did he eat some gummies? Did he have too many gummies? I mean, let's be honest here. The NFL has a different stance on that, you know, on THC and all that. They've really dumbed down how they approach it, but you still can't drop dirty. So, at least from what I read, I tried to read the NFL rules again yesterday on it. I mean, it's a dumbed down approach, but you still can't drop dirty. Anyway,
No.
Eric, what did you see on the podcast? And then when you're done, we'll shoot it over to Riley.
So I have to inform you, Will, that Jamo is not going to unblock you on Instagram. and there's a huge reason why.
I don't do Instagram, but that's cool.
Well, or
Twitter?
X or whatever it was. Yeah, Twitter. Yeah, that's what I meant to say, on Twitter. And so there's a big reason why. And it came out yesterday. Jamo was talking about the foods he eats, and Equanimous had never heard about him putting a Oreo Blizzard or whatever on his Big Mac and eating it that way on his cheeseburger. And he thought that was the grossest thing ever. And then he's like, well, how do you eat your steak? And he's like, oh, it's got to be well done. Jamo will only eat a steak if it's well done. He will not eat any meat with pink in it whatsoever. So I know that's the reason that you and Jamo are having this big rivalry with each other.
So hold on here. I'm going to make a steak today, and I'm going to tag Jamo in it. Maybe I'll even eat it and record a video. Because here's the thing, man. I'm not going to make the gross joke today. I'm just not, because it'll get me in trouble. I'll tell you guys off air. But there's a reason why you want a little bit of pink in everything. And I'll just leave it at that. You have to have a little bit of pink in everything.
Yeah.
So, especially in a steak, you don't want. There's actually studies out there that say the more well done a steak is, now allegedly, reportedly, from these articles that I've read in the past,
yep,
it can actually cause more free radicals in the body, which leads to things like cancer. So it is not natural to eat something like that well done. Thousands of years ago, you ate it raw, but our bodies have evolved. There's just no flavor in a hockey puck. Go take a hockey puck and try to chew it. You're going to get nothing but a rubber taste in your mouth, and that's what a well-done steak tastes like. I'm sorry. At a minimum, Jamo, it's got to be medium. At a minimum, it's got to be medium.
So, Riley, I'll ask you, how do you eat your steak?
Well, I'm kind of guilty because I just always order it well done.
Oh, you're fired, dude. Yep, you're done.
All right.
This is the
Well,
last
listen,
time
guys,
you're going to see
appreciate it.
Riley on the show.
I will rectify how I do that, because I know that Will's a chef, so I'm curious. I'm getting some Honolulu Blue Brew coffee. I would take anything, any suggestion that Will gives me, but that's just me being like, that's how I've always ordered it. It's been good, so I just don't change it up. But my friends routinely make fun of me because when I go to a restaurant, I find something I like, I order it the same time, or every time I go, I order the same thing. So I just kind of don't fix what is.
You need to sit down with Will and I and go out to dinner with us and let us order your food for you.
There you go.
And I guarantee you will never want to eat your steak the same way again that you did before.
There's just, look, you don't have to have it bloody. I mean, I'll be honest, and I love to see people in the chat right now are putting in how they eat their steak. And that's a great question. How do you eat your beef? So when I ordered prime rib, I get it raw or like rare, right? I like it to be like black and blue kind of prime rib. I like it to be rare in the middle. And the reason why is I want really hot au jus. If that au jus is not coming to me at 200 degrees, I'm not happy, because then when you put it in the au jus, it helps bring it up to temperature a little bit more, but it doesn't overcook it. So by the time you eat it, it's more like a medium rare to a medium. But I love prime rib, medium rare, medium. It just depends on how long it's cooked. If it's a 24-hour, you can have it more medium because it's going to be super tender. If it's a 10-hour cook, it's got to be medium rare. If it's a 6-hour cook, it almost has to be raw to get the tenderness. So you have to know where you're going out to eat. But every steak, no matter what it is, it has to be medium rare for me. Medium at most. Some steaks taste better medium. Some taste better medium rare. It just depends. Like a ribeye has to be medium rare. But it's also a steak that can be eaten medium because it has so much fat in it and less muscular fat in it that doesn't taste so good. So anyway, we're talking about steaks on Alliance podcast.
Why not, man?
No, it's good. It's good.
I'm definitely going to cook. I got steaks upstairs. I'm definitely going to cook. I'm going to cook a steak today now.
So I got a quick story for you. So through Uperlights and all my travels, I've been to about 25 or 30 states now. And I always try to go to wherever the best steakhouse is, whether it's in Chicago or Austin, Texas, or Phoenix or California. I always go try to have the best seafood, the best steaks, whatever. So I've been on this journey to find the best tasting steak in America, right? You're never going to believe where I found my favorite one so far.
Well, I'm going to take a guess. It was either a hole in the wall.
Yep.
Or it was Texas Roadhouse.
Nope, not Texas Roadhouse. It was at a place called Cowfish in Lander, Wyoming.
Cowfish. What?
Cowfish. And it was a Cajun coffee encrusted Texas ribeye. It was so friggin' good. I've never had a steak like that. And my God, melt in your mouth, medium rare. Oh, just absolute perfection. And the crust on the outside was unlike anything I've ever had on a steak.
So let me ask a question real quick. Do you guys eat the fat? Or do you get the leanest steak you can?
No, I like the fat as long as it's not like a big giant hunk of the steak is a piece of fat. That's the only fat I won't eat if it's just completely all fat.
All right. So the eye on a ribeye, right? That's got the fat that surrounds it. Like that's the bite you save for last. And then the, the backside of the ribeye, right? The cap. To me, that's the most tasty part of the ribeye is the cap. So I save that for last. There's 3 parts to a ribeye. You can kind of cut it up in different sections. So the reason why I ask is because I've had, A5 Wagyu, extremely expensive steaks, just part of, I was a chef back in the day, right? So I had to order whatever I wanted to order and working in fine dining, it wasn't uncommon for us to have $300, $400, $500 plates. And I got to experience a lot of different things that, I probably never would have had I not worked in that type of situation. But A5 Wagyu is like all fat. It's like white. It's like all fat. And you definitely don't want to eat it well done. And it can cook well done in probably 3 minutes, depending on the thickness, because it is all fat. It'll just melt away. But I've tasted that meat raw, and it is incredible. Now, I know a lot of people probably like, ooh, you got to worry about parasites and worms and all of these other things. Look, know where you're getting your meat. Know how to handle it. Do not rinse your meat, right? That's just my word of advice. Don't rinse your meat. Chicken, sure, you can rinse it. But beef, man, you start washing off all that stuff. And if you wash it in any warm water, you can actually make the situation worse. You just got to cook it the right way. You don't need to rinse it. You just need to cook it the right way.
I even went to Japan and had 4 different steakhouses in Japan, and none of them compared to that steak I had in Lander, Wyoming at Cowfish.
That's crazy.
Dale Lynn actually just said the best steak. Said best steak I ever had was over in Japan, and then Trace said in, wow, how do you even say it? Riyadh, Riyadh.
That's over in the Middle East, yeah?
Overseas.
Yeah.
Well-cultured chat. These guys know football. Evidently, I knew Will knew food, but I love it. The connoisseurs, man. I just love how you do it in this order. Like it's cool. It's cool to see people talk about stuff that they're so passionate about.
If you want to see food, then you're going to have to join the Turned Up Tailgates next year. So,
I'm coming to Detroit next year.
Yeah, I'm building a float. It's I call it a float, but it's going to be a 16-foot trailer that is going to have the podcast station. It's going to have the grill. It's going to have a smoker. It's going to have a pizza station. It's going to have pizza makers. We're going to be doing all sorts of really good food. And it's going to be expensive because I'm going to put out good food. I'm not just doing chili, or whatever. I'm doing really good food. Of course, all the spirits will be there too. I don't really drink ever, so that's all for you guys. But yeah, we're going to do it to try to raise money for the Cancer Foundation and have some fun. But we're going to do it in a way that you get an experience. You know what I mean? And experience some really good food. So if you really want to see what I know about food, that's what you're going to have to join next year. I'll put out, all the information as we get closer to next season, which will be right after we go on our ultimate Detroit Lions tailgate cruise, which is going to be happening either in June or in the week before the first regular season game at the end of August. I should have the information today. We've been going back and forth on dates and whatnot, but we are going to be cruising somewhere in tropical, like Belize or Dominican or Honduras, the Caribbean, somewhere, Mexico. We're going to be cruising somewhere, this next year. And again, the Norwegian Cruise Lines will be kicking back $100 per head to go towards the Rockdown Cancer Foundation. And then we're going to do all sorts of cool stuff. We're going to do raffles. We're going to have a bunch of memorabilia and things like that that'll be on display in picture form, because I can't bring it all on the cruise, that you'll be able to bid on silent auctions. And then we're going to raffle off a cruise. So, Eric, you bought a $100 ticket for a Super Bowl opportunity.
For a VIP Super Bowl opportunity with on-field experiences.
Right. We're going to do a $100 ticket to raffle off a 2-person cabin in a suite. Obviously, we have to have the right number of people enter this. And if they don't, you'll just get your money returned. Unless you want to donate it, you can, but otherwise I will return your money. So all that stuff and more is coming up next year. We're finally going to put these little things together that they're big things, but things that I've been trying to put together. And then the away game bus line is going to be going next year too. We're going to do at least 3 games. And I think we'll just start with 3 of the closer games. They're easier to put together. They're more manageable. They're cheaper. And as far as the long away games, which I don't think the Lions are going to have a lot of long away games next year. So we'll get all that stuff going.
Amazing to have the Rise and Grind morning show live. I'm picturing it now. I'm sure the Talking Football guys would be happy to pitch in and contribute. But how sweet would that be to be right on scene and the Rise and Grind morning show with Will Rock and Eric set up? Man, I love it. It's never ending, right? So it's the off season, but there's even more things to look forward to. I just love the vision of this show, this network. And apparently I've got a lot to learn about. Will, do you know more about football or food? It's tough, right?
Honestly, I would probably say food, because there's always something to learn in food, but there's just like there is in football. Sure, I think once you get to, there's only so much in football, right? The rules and how the game is played. I mean, that's all pretty well known. Every year you have to learn about the different teams, the different players, and, different conversations. But food, I mean, it's ever changing. I mean, it's been changing for, depending on what you believe, thousands or millions of years. So food has been changing just like we are. And there's different ways it's made and different concoctions of spices and things that are used that can always change the flavors. So, I mean, it's, I don't know, food is a very, very broad subject. Anyway, good morning. Looks like Better the Hunt made it in this morning. Hope you're feeling okay, buddy. Glad you made it in this morning. So, all right, what's next? We were talking about Jamo. We were talking about the St. Brown podcast. So, Eric, take it away on what you learned.
Well, Jamo is going to be an amazing player, I think. And he's 110 yards away from getting 1,000 yards. And I think he's going to do it. He might even do it this week alone.
Well, I hope so.
Yep.
Would love that.
We're going to need a good game from him this week.
Yep.
I remember going into the season, I sent in to the Talking Football guys. I said, hey, you guys, a segment you guys could do over under on Jamo. And I think I said 800 yards, and I think they ended up dropping it to like 600. And I'm like, oh, guys, he's gonna pass that. There were a couple things that I loved in the podcast. There were some pretty funny moments. St. Brown asked him, Amon-Ra said, hey, tell him the story about, when Coach Randall Ells, they were doing a film session, and he's talking about when he gets the ball on a reverse, they want him to just keep running outside. And he made a funny comment about, like, he asked Coach Randall Ells, yeah, how fast have you ever driven a car? You think you can just turn and, stop? He's like, once I get going, I hit the gas and it's over. And there were some pretty funny moments. They asked him who the best player he's ever played with to this point is, and he said Garrett Wilson, which I kind of thought, like, okay, yeah, Garrett Wilson's a phenomenal player. They asked him to build his greatest receiver, hands, IQ, feet, all those things. IQ, he did say Amon-Ra St. Brown. So he, was able to give a genuine compliment without it being forced, because Amon-Ra's a very smart football player. We've seen that. And it was cool that they finally got him on, and cool to see him in a different kind of setting and element. I was kind of surprised. I'm like, wow, that's, but I think Eric's right. I think that's just how he talks. I'd be surprised if he was, getting high right before going on.
Yeah. And I also like that he said that he is the fastest player in the NFL. And he truly believes that he is the fastest player in the NFL.
They asked him flat out, who's the fastest player in the NFL? He said, me.
Well, that's going to be an argument. Yeah, that's going to be an argument between him and Gibbs. St. Brown has been asked that question, and he said it's between him and Gibbs, but it depends on the type of speed you're looking for. You want long speed, it's going to be Jamo. Yep. You want short area quickness, it's going to be Gibbs.
Yep.
Well, both of them are incredibly fast. As far as intelligence goes, he's spot on with St. Brown. So St. Brown is not only a smart football player, but he's an extremely smart human being.
100%.
He's highly trained, as a young adult and as a young child. I mean, his family always had him involved in learning multiple languages, in traveling the world, and in those types of situations. Whenever you're traveling the world as a young, impressionable mind, you're going to learn a lot of things. That is the one thing that I, pressed upon my kids to do, was take your opportunities when you're young to travel, because you're going to see so many different things that are going to reshape your mind. And maybe you might find something else that you like to do that you may not see happening in your situation right now. Travel. Like, you've got till 30. I know for some families and parents, they want, it's high school, it's college, just get a job and start a family. No, it's different for everybody. But now I'd say you got till you're 30 years old before you really need to figure out what it is you want to do in life. Take the opportunity while you're young and healthy to travel and learn. So watching the St. Brown podcast, at least the little bit that I did, I don't know if he was smoked out or whatever. He looked tired, if anything. I think it's just the way that he talks. To Eric's point, it's just the way that he talks. I mean, he's always kind of spoken that way. He's got his own special little dialect, I guess, if you would call it. But you got
to remember that the kid, he grew up without a dad. It was just him and his mom. So
you're saying that he speaks more like his mom?
I don't know. I think he speaks more like the streets and where he grew up.
Could be. I don't know enough about his background as far as, where he really grew up or what he was involved in. But I remember him making, some statements that spoke to his kind of a rough situation. He had to steer away from the streets, and that's why he played football. And it's all a great story.
He grew up with, gunshots going off, and that was normal.
Yeah, that shouldn't be normal, right?
Yeah. But did you guys happen to see the video that came out from the Detroit Lions yesterday or the day before about Jamo's big, long touchdown? And they showed him on the sidelines, and he was like, hey, get that ball, get that ball.
Yeah.
That ball's for my mom. It was for her birthday. So he wanted to sign that ball and give it to his mom for her birthday.
Yeah, so apparently she didn't make the game, but she was going to be in Detroit that night. And give your mom a touchdown on your birthday. That's pretty cool, man. Absolutely cool. So as far as the NFL stance on weed, I did find this little tidbit of information in case anybody cares about it. They no longer test in April and August for THC. So when you are pretty much done with the season, in April, you can do whatever you want. And then when you come back, and then in August, apparently that's when they don't test. At least that's what this says. So for the first time since 2004, players can light up the 420 is what this article says. This is a bucksreport.com. So it's the Tampa Bay Bucks that were reporting on this, and this was in 2022. So it was part of the new collective bargaining agreement that does run out here in, I think, another 4 years. But, they can do whatever they want off season, not in season, off season.
I'm curious to know on Jamo's background, because they asked him, one of the questions was, which coach has been most influential to you to this point? And he said, I'm not even going to say it's a coach. It's going to be my dad. And it sounded like he's, his dad's, he's like, I know I've done something wrong in a game if I go to my phone after the game, and he's already texted me what I should have done. So I thought that was kind of interesting and a good answer. But yeah, I don't know enough about Jamo's background, but you realize how much you don't know, in a setting like that. Because I've never heard him speak for that extended period of time. But I love number 9, man. He's so fun to watch.
Yeah, he's definitely an electric, man, when he gets the ball. I hope he has a good game this week. I really do. I want him to get his 1,000. I thought that he'd be somewhere. I thought that he'd be somewhere between 80 catches and 800 yards. And boy, were we way off because, to his credit, he doesn't care how many catches he gets. When you're averaging 20, 25 yards a catch, you don't need a whole lot of catches to be successful.
Yeah. And imagine if he had those 2 games back.
Mm-hmm.
And we have no clue what he took, if it was something over the counter or if it wasn't, or if it was a prescription that didn't get done right. His doctor didn't get his prescription in time or whatever into the league. We have no clue. And we're never going to know. But just imagine if you had those 2 games.
Yep. I looked at his college box scores too, and I'm like, man, it's very much what you see in the NFL. When they played really bad teams he's at Alabama, he'd have 7 catches for 120 yards, but some of those games it was 3 receptions, but 1 was a touchdown, 1 was for 80 yards, that kind of thing. And so he's I've got him on my fantasy team, and so I'm always like, throw it to him, but that's just he may be the guy that only gets 3 or 4 a game, but when he does what he did against Chicago, I mean, I don't want to say it's all you need because we need everything, but that's what he brings to the table.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we got two more subjects really to kind of round out today's show, and then tomorrow we're going to dive deep into the game as far as 49ers and Lions pregame preview. So I guess the first of the last couple of questions here is home field advantage. Riley, you brought this up. And although the Lions' 2 losses on the year have been at Ford Field, which is surprising, I didn't think that the Lions would drop 1 game at home. Do we still feel that the Lions securing the 1 seed is more important for the bye or the home field advantage for the playoffs? What is more important, the bye to get rest or the home field advantage, understanding that the Lions are a much better team this season on the road? I feel like in the postseason, it's a little bit different. It's a lot different, but that's the question. So Eric, we'll start with you. Do you feel that the Lions getting the 1 seed, 1 is still important? 2, do you feel it's important for the home field advantage or the bye or both? What's your answer?
Last year, when we were getting to this point of the year where it was coming down to seeding and everything, when we got to the Dallas game and we lost that Dallas game, Dan Campbell knew how important it was to get that number 1 seed, to have home field advantage and get that rest. Even though we're so banged up and everything else, I know we need rest. I'll take the home field advantage because I was at both playoff games. I was at the Rams game. I was at the Bucs game. I know Will was too. That stadium, and all the writers are talking about it this year, was so electric and so loud and so packed. It was unlike any sporting event I've ever been to in my entire life. Both of them. It was so deafening, loud, and crazy. And what an atmosphere. And people were in their seats 3 hours before the game and 45 minutes after the game. I will take home field advantage, and Dan Campbell knows how important it is. I want our fans to affect the games like they did in the playoffs last year.
Okay, so you definitely feel that the home field advantage is more important.
Yes, than the rest. Yeah, the rest is a good thing. Don't get me wrong, but it's only a week. It's not like we get 2 or 3 weeks off to recuperate and get a bunch of people back.
Well, actually, it's kind of 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
So you end week 18, you have that week, and then you have the next week before you play the divisional round. So after the week 18, I haven't even looked at the dates to see where they all line up exact, but
Yeah.
you kind of have 2 weeks if you really need it. But I guess we have to look at it this way. The divisional round, that week leading up to, they're going to be practicing.
Yep.
So they get 1 full week of extra rest, but depending on who it is and who's trying to come back, like David Montgomery, he really has that extra week either to get right, get ready, or if he's not going to play in the divisional game, he has that extra week as long as the Lions win the divisional game to roll into the NFC Championship, ready to rock and roll, which I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, just watching what happened last season with CJ Gardner-Johnson has me questioning, what is he going to be able to do in the playoffs? Is he going to be able to maintain his legs between now and then? The one thing that I would hope that he's doing, even though he's got a bum leg, he should be in the pool doing pool therapy. He should be in the pool running on a treadmill with Aiden Hutchinson, because that'll at least keep his legs going. Take all the weight off, but at least keep his legs going and his, aerobics up. I know, a little off topic, but Riley, what do you think, man? Is it more important for home field advantage? Is it more important for the extra week of rest? How do you feel?
I love it, and I love you mentioned a few times now, like going off topic. It's your show, man. We're gonna follow your lead with whatever, and I think you're on exactly on topic, because those are the thoughts. That's why I kind of had the thought I wanted to ask you guys, really, because the good thing is you get first, you get both, right? If you get the first seed, you get the rest, and then you get to play at home. I just think maybe it's more of, I'm not necessarily less confident if the Lions have to go on the road during the playoffs, right? But certainly if you had to choose, yeah, you guys are the ones. I have yet to be at Ford Field. That's going to change next year. You mentioned, and I don't know if Better the Hunt's still in here, but Will said some very kind words to about you earlier in the show, and made mention how great it was that you got to go out and go to Ford Field, and how great it was for him to be able to host and see. And I'm thinking, like, all right, I'm next on the list. But the great thing is, yeah, I guess if you just had to choose one, which would it be? I love Eric's answer. I kind of really wanted to know, Will, like what you thought on that as well, because I know going into the season, there's videos, there's receipts, just like you said, you didn't expect to lose at Ford Field, and I don't think that we're vulnerable to losing at Ford Field either. But the team's not invincible, right? So,
yeah. So for me, it's kind of a double-edged sword, Riley. We've been better on the road. And so that would make me lean in a direction that says, hey, is our home field advantage not what we thought it would be? Because I'll be honest, I think that the minute the chips are even down slightly, our fans have not been as loud as we were last year. I'm sure the playoff situation is going to be a bit different, but we need to really elevate what we're doing.
Interesting.
We have to get louder. We're not even coming close to interrupting teams the way that we used to. And part of that is because of the silent count, and teams are getting smarter. When they know now, it's like, okay, when you run a trick play and the cat's out of the bag, and now that play is easily, diagnosable, if that's even a word, it's going to be hard to run that play again. Same thing with the home field advantage. Teams know, well, we can only do the silent count at Ford Field. So that's what they practice. They get really good at it. It's really hard to get them off of their snap count and to force a false start. You could force probably more delay games than you can a false start. But whatever the case may be, we have to get louder. And we have to get louder to force the quarterback to keep asking, what's the play? What's the play? What's the play? But then they go into signal mode, right? Where all the hand signals, and Connor Stallions is on the sideline making sure that they understand the play. So it's you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. So I guess the answer is, does it really matter? Well, of course it matters for one reason and one reason only. the 1 seed matters because then it's only 3 games to win a Super Bowl.
Right.
Not 4.
Exactly.
3. That's the only thing that matters to me, is that you're 25% of the way there when you start in the divisional round.
And that is why the number 1 seed for both the AFC and NFC are more likely to go to the Super Bowl than any other team in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's what it was last year, right? So, do you agree with Will, Eric? Because you guys go to Ford Field a ton.
Yep.
The crowd's less loud this year than
I
last.
don't know. There's been times this year like this Bills game, man. I thought the crowd stepped up big time. There were times where it was just as loud as the playoffs, I thought. I haven't heard anything on decibel levels or anything, but man, I don't think you could pack another person into Ford Field. It was, yeah, I thought it was very loud at certain times, and I've never screamed so much in my life as I did at Thanksgiving and at that Bills game and the Packer game. The Packer game was a blast.
So Better the Hunt's he's got a great question here, which, I mean, it kind of rolls into what we're talking about here, which is advantages and how the team is playing, which is home field versus away. I mean, we are undefeated on the road. We've got 2 home losses, which again, I never expected, but his question is, how do you feel about using the guys that have played and won versus bringing the injured guys back to replace the guys that have been meshing and won together? I worry about mistakes. I think it's a great question. I would answer it this way. Anzalone has to come back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that they're going to miss. I don't think they're going to have a ton of mistakes with Alex coming back because he's been around the team. You know, he's been a leader, a captain. He knows this defense really well. He was the captain of the defense, you know, for pretty much all of the seasons that he's been a Detroit Lion. I don't think that is going to change a thing. I think it's going to elevate the linebacker room. But then again, let's wait and see what happens this week and next week. Because the way that Jack Campbell has been playing, and I'm not saying Alex won't come back. He absolutely will. The way that Jack has been playing, I think the question could be reframed this way. Do we want to leave Jack as the captain and just let Alex play?
It's a great question.
I think that's a better play. Like, don't put all the crap on Alex's shoulders. Just let Alex play the game, put his hair down and be on fire. Don't take the game away from Jack, because he's been excelling, since Alex has been out. He's been excelling in that position. And I think part of that is because now he has all the responsibility, and it's reshaped his mindset. I feel personally. I mean, that's just how I feel watching the game. That's
a great point. I love it.
But to answer your question, that's a big concern of mine for some of these guys that are coming back. But let's think, who's really coming back. So Khalif Raymond, as long as his legs are right, I don't think that he can screw up a whole lot, as a punt returner, kick returner. I don't think that he can really do a whole lot. Offensively, yeah, I'd probably make Khalif my 5th or 6th option on game day as a receiver. But maybe, in the run game, your end arounds or whatever, I would have him installed there. But I think that Tim Patrick has stepped up big time. What is it that Khalif could have over Tim? I don't think there's anything that he could have over Tim Patrick. Yeah, Tim Patrick is a big target that we need, and he's been playing great. I just don't see anyone stepping in front of Tim Patrick right now.
It kind of leads into the other side of the coin is because there's something to be said for, do you want the continuity, right? And so, because sometimes it's like, well, I just want the team to keep playing so that they don't take the week off. But that's exactly, I think, where you're getting, Will, is if they don't get that week off, is it like, oh, well, there's 4, 5, 6 players that we would have otherwise had. I don't know who's exactly coming back. I just want the Lions to win the Super Bowl, right? I think that's what everyone in here has in common.
Yeah.
Right?
So the players that are coming back is Alex Anzalone should be back probably before the first playoff game. It was talked about that he'd be back by week 18 at the very earliest. And if we get that bye week, he'll be inserted into the defense that bye week is my guess, if he doesn't come back for week 18. Khalif Raymond should be back probably right around the same time, either week 18 or the bye week or the first playoff game. And then you have David Montgomery, who is eyeing a divisional round comeback. So we need the bye week to get David back. I'm not so worried about that situation. I think that whether we have David Montgomery or not, the Lions are just fine, and Jahmyr Gibbs just proved that.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, we might be, I'm not saying this like to be mean or anything to David, we might be better off to a degree because nobody really has a whole lot of tape on Craig Reynolds or Jamar Jefferson or Sione Vaki. There's not much out there. So now you've added the new wrinkle to your offense where you really can't plan for what these guys are going to do. But David, you do. Now, of course, I want David in the game, without a doubt. I want David in the game. But I don't think that you're going to have to utilize him as much as maybe what he was being utilized before. He'll probably be on a serious pitch count, that he's only worked in, maybe around the red zone. But 20 to 20 is going to be all Gibbs. And even then on, once they enter the red zone, it's probably still going to be majority Gibbs. At least until we have a sizable lead, I would think. And that's really it. That's really it. For who's coming back. So then that leaves the other question. If the Lions make it to the Super Bowl, do you really want to put Aiden Hutchinson back in the fold after missing, 16 weeks of football, 15 weeks of football, whatever it is? I'm a hard no on that. Hard no. And that is the continuity factor. And I don't want him to re-injure himself. Eric, what were you going to say?
100%. I'd leave it up to the coaches. Whatever they think, I go with.
Well, yeah, we don't have a choice there, but
yeah. Well, no, but I mean, if they think he's good enough to go. I'm not in meeting rooms. I'm not at practice. I don't know what Aiden's been doing. Nobody does. Is he out of the pool now? I know that his bone should be completely healed by now. Should be all fused back together and everything. It's just a matter of getting his muscles back to doing everything and getting rid of the atrophy. And then you have to get your brain right. You have to get your body right. You got to take some hits. You got to take some practices. I don't know. I don't know if he'll be ready in time or not, but I love the fact that he's trying. And he told his team that if you guys make the Super Bowl, so will I.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's incredible that he did that, right? That he said that. But at the same time, I've said this before. You have to harden your body. Dan Campbell has said the same thing in the past. You have to harden your body, which means take hits, give hits. You can't just walk into a game soft and expect to play well. You can't just walk into a game where you haven't been doing any hand fighting with an opponent. Now, he's got a great opponent in Penei Sewell. But it would just worry me that the guys that we have had and that they are playing well, it may be too much of a bridge to cross for Aiden. But then again, we could be completely wrong. I could be completely wrong. He may come in and get 6 sacks in the game, and who knows? Who knows? But again, it's Dan Campbell's decision and Brad Holmes' decision. It's Aiden's decision if he can even get back and feels like playing, first of all. But we'll see where that goes. But to answer the question, yeah, I think you want to leave as many of the guys in the game that have been playing at a high level and that are, gelled and the continuity is there and the chemistry is there. I think that is the only way you can roll. Otherwise, it's another Dan gamble that you're gambling on these guys coming back to the team and maybe have a huge let off. And then you just ruined home field advantage and a first round, bye and the number 1 seed because you want to bring guys back to the team that maybe aren't as ready. I think that practice would tell you a lot, but at the same time in practice, you're not going full bore. You're just not. It's hard. I would think that it would be hard to judge a guy in how he's going to perform in a game when it's not training camp, when it's not preseason. But in season, you're not going full bore. So these guys are not getting the same level of competition.
It's not a ramp up period.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot. There's so many decisions that can be made here, but I will lean on this one thing. How many games have we watched this year where we are going up against an opponent, and I apologize, the games escape me right now, but we've gone up against a couple of teams where their number 1 or 2 wide receiver or their number 1 running back was coming back to the game. I think it was Aaron Jones. I think it was Aaron Jones in the first Packers game, where he was just coming back, and I said, look, I'm not worried about this guy. He hasn't played. It especially for a high position like that, whether it's wide receiver or running back, it usually takes 2 to 3 games before you're back. Your legs are back. You've taken your hits. You can play the game again at a high level. And we were right. They didn't have good games. They were meaningless in some of those games. And that's because they just literally came back from injury, and tough injuries at that. I think the same thing should be said for, defensive players like a, pass rusher, defensive end, or running back like David Montgomery. They may not be as effective. So I know we're still on this question, but if they're not as effective in the game and you lost the game, how bad would you feel? Because you just wanted a name in the game.
Exactly.
I don't care about the names. I care about the guys that are playing at a high level. Continue rolling that train down the tracks until it falls off.
Yep. I think your Gibbs and Montgomery point, like, hey, it's going to be Gibbs 20 to 20, maybe Montgomery. It's the same thing where you're talking about with just bring Anzalone back and just let Jack do what he's been doing. I think it's the same thing. If you get to the Super Bowl without Hutchinson, doesn't mean he's not an important player, but there would be this aspect of, man, we're getting Hutch back, but is it the same Aiden Hutchinson? It's not. It's just not. It physically can't be. But I think Eric's right. If they give him the green light to play, hell yeah, that'd be awesome. But I don't know that it's wise to expect him to go in and get 3-4 sacks. But then, like you said earlier, Will, if he gets 6, then you can just you can feel even better about that.
I mean, even if he had 1, I would feel great about it.
That'd be amazing.
Well, he's just good enough to get back. They don't play him in the game, and then he just gets a couple of snaps at the end. You know what I mean? To say he played in a Super Bowl.
Yeah, he won't be happy with that. No, knowing the way that Aiden is, he won't be happy with that.
Well, it's not up to him.
I know, but you know what that's like? It's like, here's your participation trophy.
Yeah, but he played the first 6 games, so he'll get his Super Bowl ring no matter what. This way, at least he gets on the field for the Super Bowl. Maybe you let him go out there for the first snap of the game. Be the starter, see how he does. If he's not handling business after the first play or 2, you take him out and you put somebody else in. Say, hey, buddy, it was a good shot. Good job. At least you tried.
Well, you could use him as a decoy. I mean, he could absolutely be a decoy, but then you're ruining a roster spot, for maybe somebody else that you might need on special teams, or somebody else that, could be that guy that just goes off for no certain reason, but he's in the game, that week, and he's not, the week before. But you could use him as a decoy, where you put him out in the wide 9 and, you think that he's just going to rush the passer and he just plays contain all day. You could do that, but then you're also limiting yourself on pass rush. And I don't know, man, there's so many scenarios we could walk through. Yeah. At the end of the day, I just want to see Aiden get back to football when he's ready and he's healthy. I don't think that he wants a participation trophy. I think that he wants to be part of it, which, from snap to whistle, from open to close, start to finish. I think that he wants to be a bigger part of it, and I commend him for that. But
that may not happen, though.
Team above all else, man. Team above all else, right? All right, you guys had a great show this morning. Tomorrow we're going to get full on with 49ers Lions. I really don't even know what there is to talk about tomorrow. I mean, I've gone through some stuff, the last couple of days, trying to put a good show together for tomorrow, talking about the pregame preview. Of course, we'll have Lions news, rumors, and all the rest. But this is just a game that just feels like, I don't know, it feels like we're just going to go and steamroll them, but I hate to even feel that way.
Just go in, get it done, get on the flight back to Detroit.
There's a reason I put a very large bet on this game.
Hey. Well, I hope you're right.
I'm doing more.
I hope you're right. All right, you guys.
Can I read one just real quick? Better the Hunt. He said, Riley, there is nobody better than Will to be with you when you walk into the promised land. He's talking about Ford Field because I mentioned that earlier. He said, I'm very grateful to Will for showing my daughter and I it all, the whole experience. I will always remember
appreciate that.
Trip. Incredible. So I echo that. I love this show. I love Will Rock. I love Eric Rintamaki. This community. Thank you guys for letting me hang out and be a part of the show today. Go Lions.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, Eric was a big part of that day too with Better the Hunt. So with Randy, I was like, again, it meant a lot to me just being able to see those you know, first like Ford Field smiles, you know, that you're walking into something. The biggest thing is when I walked into Ford Field for the first time, I didn't have a Barry Sanders statue, but you do. No. You do now. You know, those are the things that when you look around the league, you know, like the Packers Stadium or Soldier Field or even the 49er Stadium, when you look around and you go to some of these other stadiums, they are just so riddled with, you know, things of their past and all these great memories and players and statues and banners and this, that, and the other thing. We just don't have anything really. We got Barry Sanders now. I guess who's next? Calvin Johnson?
Yeah, I heard they're doing a Calvin Johnson statue.
So we need more. We need a damn Super Bowl.
That's what we need.
That's what we need. That's what
Let's do it.
We'll see you guys tomorrow. You guys have a wonderful day. Wonderful day. Go Lions. Go One Pride. Go chat, man. You guys are awesome. Best community on the planet. Take care. We'll see you guys in the morning.
Big guys in the huddle, man, talking football. NFL, college, man, they cover it all. Feel the tension, prediction, and the call. Fantasy life and rise or fall. Talking football night and day. NFL and college, hey, hey. Bets and stats, they don't play. Fantasy champs on our way. Guitars, roaring hearts, beating fast. Catch a pass, score, man, have a blast. Three voices, keeping it clear. Listen up, the season's here. Guitars, roaring hearts, beating fast. Catch a pass, score, man, have a blast. Three voices, keeping it clear. Listen up, the season's here. Talking football night and